Hey guys, welcome back. I'm top music attorney Miss Crystal, and today I'm giving you a real lawyer's reaction to the song Mind of Hopsin 8 by, of course, Hopsin, who is a hip-hop artist and producer. Now, this song was released back in 2016, and at the time it served as a diss track to his then partner and manager, Damien Ritter, who also was a co-founder in Hopsin's prior record label, Funk Volume. So I spent some time prior to, watching the video, just kind of doing a little research into how this video came about, how the song came about, just so I had a little prior knowledge, because I knew there was this big dispute that kind of inspired the whole thing. For any new fans that have just kind of landed on this channel, if you are a fan of Hopsin, I'm going to be kind of telling the story from the interviews that I saw Hopsin give, talking about the situation. I even watched one or two things from Damien himself, kind of defending himself. So we'll talk about all of it throughout the video, but with that being said, let's go. Hi guys, I'm top music attorney Miss Crystal. I'm an entertainment attorney, public speaker, and creator of the Top Music Attorney School for artists and record labels. I'm the owner of Dukes Up Records, and most importantly, I'm an independent artist. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on those bell notifications so you don't miss my weekly videos giving you my best tips on the music business, industry news updates, and teaching you how to stay legally protected.
Let's go.
All rise. Case number 23, Hopsin versus Mr. Funk Volume. The Honorable Dunsky Douglas presiding.
Yeah, so he says Mr. Funk Volume, and obviously referencing the record label, and then later on there's going to be another reference to leaving the record label, but then Hopsin actually says Damien's name in the lyrics itself, so I don't know if he kind of was doing that because he had legal counsel, and they're like, maybe you shouldn't use, Damien's name, but he does end up using his name, so I'm not sure why it's Mr. Funk Volume, but obviously it's connected to their partnership, the record label, and all that.
All right, everybody sit down. This is really getting on my nerves. You guys are taking up too much of my time. Marcus Hopsin, please come to the stand.
Nigga, what the fuck? What the fuck? Homie, I made you rich, paid your rent, damn right. Biting the hand that was feeding you, this shit don't make any sense. Nigga, what the fuck?
So as an initial kind of note, as an actual litigation attorney, when you have a judge, they usually don't say sit down, be seated, that kind of thing. But I have had judges that will say they're just being very blunt. I'm incredibly annoyed, I'm incredibly frustrated. Now, the goal with the judge is that you want the judge to be a neutral arbiter of justice and to not show any kind of favoritism, but obviously judges will be very annoyed and pissed off with attorneys, for example, whole other thing. But as relates to the lyrics we just heard, Hopsin say, biting the hand that was feeding you, and this shit don't make any sense. Okay, so Hopsin, in some of the interviews that I watched, he was just talking about the relationship because Damien was serving as his not only, partner in the record label, but was also his manager. And so he goes, from this kind of enterprise that we built and this company, I was the primary artist. I was the one, the cash cow, bringing in all the money. And so when this dispute arose that we'll get into here shortly, he goes, what are you doing?
You know this is that real shit. How you gonna forget who built this? I'm the one who made the company all the millions. Now you got problems to deal with. Man, this is tough luck. See, a couple weeks ago we was buzzed, and that crew that was killing shit was us. Till you turned on me, homie, that's fucked up. I ain't keeping this shit on the hush hush. On my chest I just carry too much stuff. I done had it, enough is enough, bro. Plus I needed something to get my buzz up.
So I'm assuming this guy at the table is Hopsin's attorney. So if you have, your client is testifying, I'm assuming, he's giving his case in chief at this point. He's telling his story, right? That's what you get to do. We don't know who's suing who because it's just, they said the party names. We're assuming Hopsin might be suing Damien because we all know the backstory at this point, right? But in any case, if this is his attorney, what is he doing? The attorney is supposed to be up asking questions, and they're usually open-ended questions. How did the relationship start? What was the agreement? What was the understanding? And so far, he seems to be just sitting at the table. I don't know how good this counsel is.
Fuck with the wrong dude. Ain't no telling what Hopsin is gon' do. Creeping up on you. Quit your sleeping, I told you. This a motherfucking journey we finna go through. If I ain't had so much to lose, I swear to God, I'd probably beat up and choke you. Damn. Nigga, this is that raw shit. Right. That organic flow. You probably see up.
All right, so if you have someone who is on the stand testifying and talking about potentially beating up and choking the other side, right, that can raise some issues because we have potential witness intimidation because Damien might be testifying, right, or we're trying to prevent Damien. So as far as in this actual moment, if Hopsin was on the stand saying this, it'd be a little problematic.
Been whole food. Shiver me timbers. Something's fishy about you, Mr. D. Ritter. When I told you that I...
Mr. D. Ritter. Okay, that was at least the first reference specifically to Damien.
Wanted new management. Why the fuck you throw a fit and seem bitter? Why you catch an attitude?
All right, so now we see Damien and Hopsin are in the judges' chambers. Okay, so sometimes we have meetings with the judges in their chambers, but we do know that both sides are represented by counsel. So there's no reason that they should be alone in the judges' chambers having a conversation with the judge without their legal counsel present. That's a problem.
Never I question you bad on my fucking percentages. I know why. Why? You been bending it in your benefit. Your Honor, I'm innocent. This nigga crazy.
Okay, so right here we just had a whole shift in the courtroom. The judge is kind of grooving with what Hopsin is saying, seems to be, smiling. The jury as well, right? We have everyone because now we have a jury trial that we're in the middle of. Even the bailiff seems to be, be getting into it. So right now the issue is that until everyone has put their case in chief before the judge, had all their evidence and testimony heard, everyone's supposed to be remaining neutral, and that's not happening. They seem to be very much on Hopsin's side.
Telling all of my people, you tell him. He taking all of my C-notes. See, he has a gambling issue. He takes the cash and blows it all at casinos.
So he says Damien has a gambling issue. He takes all the cash and blows it at casinos. So I watched an interview that Damien gave in 2016, and so when asked that question, he goes, first of all, the interviewer just asks, were you stealing money, right? So Hopsin's basically saying, you were stealing money as the manager, as the partner in the label. And Damien's response was, yes, I gamble. I like to gamble. But kind of like, it's no one's business what I do with my money. But as it relates to me just stealing money, absolutely not. It was a lie. When asked why would Hopsin say that, Damien came back and said, Hopsin likes to highly exaggerate and sometimes he'll have lies in his music. I'm not going to call him out on, examples of when he's done this in other songs. But nonetheless, I didn't steal from the label. And I think to a degree, Hopsin kind of, backed that down a little bit in interviews that I watched, just saying, I'm not saying that he was like being shady and he was trying to steal money and this and that, but it was more from omission, right? He just wasn't telling us what he was taking for his share. So interesting note on that lyric anyway.
Damn! When I bring up my royalties, you start avoiding me. That's some disloyalty. You woke up to evil boy in me. Your ass is poisoning. Tell me why you would destroy me. This was a fucking vision that I had created with your brother. But you too infatuated with the money. You killed it and ran it straight into the gutter. Now I think, why'd I make...
Yeah, so Hopsin said this was a vision that he had. My understanding of Funk Volume was that was going to be Hopsin's rap name. And he's very glad, I guess, that he didn't end up using Funk Volume and he just stuck with Hopsin as the brand.
Yeah, you me the boss. You keep pissing a whole lot of people off. Our whole label came out with a weak result. You on that same bullshit Tamika brought.
Nigga, I don't know what you thought. You think I can't see the blood on the walls? That ain't going down, nigga. I don't know what you thought. I can clearly see the blood on the wall. That ain't going.
All right, so we just saw an actual reference again to Funk Volume on the screen, so Hopsin leaves Funk Volume.
Ain't got time for your bullshit. Everybody knows you be on it. Ain't got time for your bullshit. Everybody knows you be on it.
The attorney's like, no, I see you, you're doing a great job. The attorney's not doing anything, Hopsin, you're overpaying your legal team. Okay, so when I was doing a little research, I was trying to find, did Hopsin or Damien end up ever filing a lawsuit over this big dispute in 2016? And I wasn't able to find anything, and in an interview, Damien said, at least in 2016, that Hopsin had not filed anything as well. So the reason I'm saying all of that, because, this is a diss track, right? So from a legal standpoint, you have potential claims of defamation and slander, potential interference with business opportunity, because if Hopsin is leaving the label and he's throwing a ton of shade, now is that going to inhibit the label's ability to make money from its other artists? I mean, it's a mess. And Hopsin, I think, knew that there was a potential of a lawsuit after he released this, because he did say in an interview, I did it anyway. I don't care what was going to happen. I didn't think about the consequences. I was just going to put it out because, I'd been kind of documenting what had been happening. I would like something would happen. I'd add a line, I'd add a lyric. And so I had to kind of tell this story and get it out.
Ain't got time for your bullshit. Everybody knows you be only. Ain't got time for your bullshit.
Hold up, I got some more shit to say. Yeah. It's supposed to be front volume, isn't it? Thought it was music above all the business, but you just said fuck all you niggas. You tarnished the brand and you started the front volume fitness? Come on, I really think got us portraying something we really ain't. How we supposed to be ill when you on our website with a shake weight trying to be Billy Blanks? Nigga, thanks. Ain't nobody trying to lift weights. We just want to hit up the studio when it's rap and do shows, but you don't understand the culture of hip-hop. You a lame ass nigga, dame half the crew knows.
So he's saying Damien doesn't understand the culture of hip-hop, and so they did a little get-together podcast in, I think it was January of 2021, and so they reconciled, at least that was the case at that time when they did the podcast, but they're like, we're going to talk about the beef. And in the beginning, they were discussing what were their respective duties with the label, right? And so Damien was saying, I was more on the side of learning the business, right? Not to say that I was the expert at that time, but I paid $20,000 in expenses, to actually form the company, and legal fees, and, kind of getting into marketing and taking over that aspect. Whereas Hopsin's respective role was to be the creative, right? To make the beats, to distribute the music, to make the visuals. So again, as it relates to kind of their business partnership and what Hopsin just said, sounds like it was factual, maybe kind of mean, but nonetheless, I think Damien at some point, he says, I did kind of get an ear for what we were doing. I kind of figured out, on the creative side, what was working based on fan reactions. But yes, I was the person on the business side of the record label.
New age Jerry Heller, a scary fella. I hate your fucking name, every letter. I'm very fed up. You acting like an ordinary heifer. I'ma take you to the mortuary dress up. We gave you our trust, then you at us corner. You got us a shitty label deal with Warner. And if I confront you about it, you tell me I need counseling and I got a disorder. You send me on.
So his Warner deal, he talked a little bit about this in an interview, and he just said it was a distribution deal, which is really good, right? So we don't get a lot of distribution deals for artists. So that meant obviously Hopsin had negotiation power when they went into, the room to talk about it, because labels say, cool, let's do a deal. I'm going to own your music. So for them to say, we're just going to do distribution, that means it's a license deal, but they still take a, portion of revenue. And so I think that's something that Hopsin was pretty upset about, because Warner came in, he's like, this huge label should be able to exponentially expand awareness of the brand beyond what I can do for myself. And when the label didn't, he's like, okay, so you're taking some of my money, probably a lot of my money, but our release did not do better than what I've done for myself previously. So that's actually one of the biggest gripes that, a lot of artists will have when they sign with record labels, but then there's that extra layer of the label still won at the end of the day because the label owns all the music. So at least in this deal, I think Hopsin or Damien, I forget who had said it, but there was like a $50,000 advance. It was just a distribution deal, but Hopsin nonetheless was pretty upset about it.
Join this horror, shitty hotels, no sleep, with no food to order. Meet and greets every single day is torture. How you expecting an A1 performer? Every time something's wrong, it's the same thing. Blah, 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 you just blame me. Damn. Then you tell Brooklyn and Jamie. Damn. Now they both thinking I'm crazy. Damn. I deal with this on the daily. Damn. My career mentally rapes me. Damn. I won't let this nigga break me. He praying Dizzy Writers go replace me. Shady.
So a little bit of what he was talking about, including with the meet and greets, he goes, and again, he said this in interviews, just about he was getting kind of worked to death, and it was impacting the quality of, for example, meet and greets. He goes, every single day on tour for months and having to do meet and greets every single day, he goes, it just gets incredibly hard. My energy was down. I just can't give the fans the experience that they deserve or that I want to give them. And so he had a tough time with just even in the management component of how his career was being handled. So kind of what happened was, they had this partnership and then he's kind of on tour. And I think that tour was a real kind of turning point in the relationship. Because there was this one issue, he comes back, hey, I want an accounting, and I think he had said, he got paid like $70,000 from the tour, and he went through with the other artists what they got paid, and then he goes, Damien got paid $50K because Damien decided to pay himself that. So back to Hopsin just being like, I'm not saying that he's stealing us, blind, right? But just that he is deciding what he's going to pay himself, and it just doesn't make sense for what he's doing as the manager. So then started the conversation of, hey, I think I need a new personal manager, nothing against you. And then apparently Damien did not take that very well, and there was a breakdown that happened shortly after that.
What are your fucking motives, Dame? Let's talk about it. You're our manager, our label owner, our accountant. That's kind of tricky. Something is fishy. That's risky. We just don't even know. We go with the flow while you rowing the boat. You keeping it simple-minded, cause you know when our only concern is just hoping we blow. So when all the money come in from our album and tours, you sit there and soak in the dough. When did we ever ask about the gross? When did we ever ask about the net? You would just hand us money from our shows, cause you knew we wasn't questioning the checks. Nigga, I trusted you with my life. You up your percentage, so I'm making less? Fuck you, bitch. You get no respect. This is why Hop is coming for your neck. Bless.
All right, so I know Hopsin runs his company, his career totally different, including following this whole experience. At the time he was talking about how, I was like the smartest one at the label as far as being one of the artists, but I was still one of the dumbest. Just in that I didn't know the music business in general. And because I didn't know the music business, I wasn't asking questions. I mean, this is the tale that we hear. Not just from rappers, but just from artists, independent artists, just kind of burying their head in the sand and being like, I'm just the artist, I'm just doing the creative, so I'm not going to know anything about the business side, and then they get screwed. So, again, it sounded like there, may have been miscommunication. Maybe Damien was taking advantage of the situation because there was no oversight. There was no accountability. There was no, what are you getting paid and why is it like that? Or when those conversations finally happened, it was like far after the fact.
All you care about is making money, you don't care about a fucking soul, though. You just fluctuate our dollars up and down at your convenience like a fucking pogo. You been screwing everybody on the label, on the low, and they don't even know, though. So good luck, Jaren, Dizzy, Hopper, Swizz, I'm going solo.
Yeah, so obviously we keep saying in the courtroom, right? So the jury, the judge, the bailiff, everyone is having a great time and dancing along, and even the press seem to be on Hopsin's side. Now, at the time, from what I'm reading and understanding, it sounds like everyone wasn't just automatically on Hopsin's side, and, within his crew and team, that there was some disagreement about, how bad it was, of what Damien was doing, and Damien was saying, you shouldn't have just thrown away the relationship, the label, and walked away because of these things. But I can tell you, being an entertainment attorney, I've been in this industry since I was 4, but entertainment attorney for 8 years, and working predominantly with record labels, not just small, but large record labels as well. And a lot of these issues come up and they get exacerbated because of emotion and because you've been in these relationships for a long time. I think that when we've been friends with people and we've been working together with people, we have these little quirks that kind of build up, and then there's kind of this eruption. And not to say that there weren't bad acts on one or both sides, but then it leads to the dissolution of the record label, you're parting, and it's a mess. Because oftentimes record label partners have not done their due diligence to have very clear agreements spelling out what happens if you decide to walk away in a buyout. Now, when it comes to what I love about this, and when it comes to kind of building your own enterprise, do it yourself. Build your own record label. Hopsin then started, of course, his new record label, Undercover Prodigy, and so now he has that housing for what he does as an artist. And this is something that I've done for myself. I not only represent record labels as an attorney, but I have my own record label. And I know that record label owners aren't always in a position to get the help that they need, to get the contracts that they need. So I went and I actually created a full-length record label course, which has that, the video interface where you're actually going through understanding how to register the company, right? How to have your partnership agreements, how to take on investors, how to build your team, the A&R stuff with artists. But most importantly, the contracts. Making sure that you are legally protected because you've registered your company the right way, because you have your contracts signed with the artists and the partners. And what I'll do as well, because this is incredibly inexpensive compared to actually hiring an attorney, but just for this video, I'll give you guys a special discount. So I'll link it down in the description, or I'll pin a comment or something. So if you are someone trying to start a record label and you need help, I gotcha. So just go down to topmusicattorney.com.
Nigga, I don't know what you thought. You think I can't see the blood on the walls? That ain't going down, nigga. I don't know what you thought. I can clearly see the blood on the walls.
All right, so Damien's being put in handcuffs. It doesn't look like this is going so well. Now, if you have, a private claim, a civil claim, right? So you say, you stole my music, or you stole money from the company. Those are all civil. So typically we don't see the defendants, which is what Damien would be if Hopsin is suing him. We don't see defendants being hauled away in handcuffs. Those are usually for criminal charges, but, again, for purposes, it gives a nice visual and it conveys that Damien's in trouble.
That ain't going down, nigga. Ain't got time for your bullshit. Everybody knows you be on it. Ain't got time for your bullshit. Everybody knows you be on it. Ain't got time for your bullshit. Everybody knows you be on it. Ain't got time for your bullshit. Everybody knows you be on it.
Change is one of the most difficult things that we face, but change is inevitable. One reason we don't like change is we get comfortable where we are. We get used to our friends, our job, the place we live, and even if it's not perfect, we accept it because it's familiar. And what happens?
So guys, when it comes to your music videos or any, videos that you release, when you use pictures, and let's say the picture happens to include Damien in any of these, you're supposed to get permission, or otherwise just have ownership. But even if you have ownership, you still need to have permission to use their likeness for your commercial benefit, which is what could be argued here. So again, going back to, we usually have two sides of a story, right? So in just meaning that if Hopsin has a number of claims and he could have, maybe should have, sued Damien if he's saying you're siphoning money, right? Because as a partner in the company, you have obligations under the law, duty of loyalty and care. So, Hopsin has all of his claims and he could have sued Damien. But equally, following the release of this video, Damien then had a number of separate claims that he could have brought against Hopsin. So we talked about defamation, slander, interference with business opportunity, and, use of his name and likeness without permission.
Because we're not willing to change, we get stuck in what God used to do instead of moving forward into what God is about to do. And just because God's blessed you where you are doesn't mean you can just sit back and settle there. You have to stay open to what God is doing now. What worked 5 years ago may not work today. If you're going to be successful, you have to be willing to change.
All right, so there's Undercover Prodigy, the logo for Hopsin's new record label, current record label.
Change. Every blessing is not supposed to be permanent. Every provision is not supposed to last forever. We should constantly evaluate our friendships. Who's speaking into your life? Who are you depending on? Make sure they're not dragging you down, limiting you from blossoming. Everybody is not supposed to be in our life forever. If you don't get rid of the wrong friends, you will never meet the right friends.
Guard yourself and make sure you know who's on your team, right? So just generally, when we have, videos on the YouTube channel, Top Music Attorney, or we talk about the importance of surrounding yourself with the right people, making sure that your manager really has your back, because lo and behold, we have major acts who end up having these complicated lawsuits with team members like managers, like agents, accountants, because they become complacent and they think everyone's being honest and transparent, and they're not. And then, they have hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars, go missing. But then even, above and beyond a financial concern, legal implications, but then also just having bad eggs on your team and how that can really tank what you're doing creatively on a business side. So it's very important who you have that close to you, especially as your career starts to excel. All right, Undercover Prodigy. And as far as my understanding, and again, if you are a fan of Hopsin and you can fill me in, this is the first time that I'm covering him, and so I want to know more about what he's doing, especially as an independent artist. That's kind of what we like to focus on this channel. My understanding is that Damien and Hopsin did kind of reconcile. I guess Hopsin ended up calling him like December of 2019, and then they met up, I guess, at Whole Foods a few days later, which I thought was funny. There was a reference to Whole Foods in the lyrics, and another reference to Whole Foods, you know, in that they made up. I don't understand. Loves Whole Foods, apparently. But then it led to kind of this full-length podcast where they were talking about the dispute. So I don't know if they're like best friends now. But in any case, you know, the fact that they could come back together after 4 or 5 years of just simply not speaking and having this huge public fallout, you know, that's good. And I hope that there's been healing across the board for both of them. And from what I'm reading, the label is defunct. From the feud between the partners and financial altercations. And I know one of the big things that Hopsin was having an issue with is that he wanted his music back as part of splitting, going separate ways. And I don't know what ended up happening with that, if he was able to do a buyout to get the rights back. I'd be curious, so if you guys know, let me know. And, you know, we'll be doing more reactions. So if you have any videos by Hopsin that you want me to react to, drop that recommendation down in the comments below. And like I said, you know, I build record labels every single day, and I can tell you the things that come up, the issues that arise are very common, but you don't think about them till you've been through it. So that's kind of why with, you know, my course, I have built it specifically to help partners, or even if you are just a solo practitioner, right, you were just doing it by yourself, to avoid these huge issues and to, of course, stay legally protected. Now, if you guys happen to be looking for some free help, I go live every Tuesday and Friday on Top Music Attorney YouTube, and you can leave questions, comments in the chat, and I answer them for you live. So if you're a record label owner, if you're an artist, you need help, be sure to check in every Tuesday and Friday at 7 p.m. PST. For those of you who are new here, I am also an independent artist, so if you're in the mood for some dark pop music, just search Miss Crystal on all music platforms. And don't forget to come say hi on social media. I'm definitely the most active on Instagram, but you can come and check in on any platform. If you haven't yet, be sure to subscribe, turn on those bell notifications so you don't miss any videos from your new favorite top music attorney. I'm gonna get out of here, but thank you for watching. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Bye.